Hey everyone, my name is David. Thank you so much for joining me as I talk to you about notifications and alerting. As you might know already, at Dynatrace, we're able to detect different anomalies and issues that are directly linked to your monitor services, applications, user sessions, and more. What I want to cover today, however, is how you can also receive notifications through different integrations to be able to have some quick insight into some of the most pressing problems or issues that are affecting your favorite apps. The agenda for today then is going to be quite simple. We're going to start with the alerting profiles, which allow us to define the scope and conditions under which these alerts are triggered. And then we're going to simply add the desired configuration for these integrations in applications like email, Slack, Teams, Jira, and many more. At the very end, I'll also be covering how to configure maintenance windows. This is a feature that allows us to disable alerts for a specific period of time. This is kind of the opposite of what we're doing with the alerting profiles, but you'll see that this comes in hand. It's going to be really useful when you're expecting that, for example, your system will undergo a time off, you're expecting you have some plan updates, and you just don't want this data to be reflected in your environment. Let's jump into the documentation. As I was saying, this is the topic for today, and these are going to be the different sections that we're covering. We're going to start with the alerting profiles. At the documentation, you'll always see a definition of what this tool or capability is for, and uh, what I'm going for is this step-by-step or all the configuration information that you need to follow in order to set it up. You can also find some examples and all relevant information. So whenever you have some doubts or you forgot how to do something or what a specific field was meant for, then you can always reach back to this documentation. What I'm going to do is demo environment, and then I can show you how to configure all of these alerting profiles, while I'll tell you some more information about this. I'm already loaded into the settings application, and then I'm just going to go down to the alerting section, which should be right here, and the problem alerting profiles. So let's just quickly create one. An alerting profile. First field is obviously going to be the name. This is just going to be an internal name for us, just to be able to tell apart what this configuration is for. As you grow and use and leverage more capabilities of Dynatrace, you'll have a long list of different alerting profiles, hopefully, and then you always want to use a key name uh, where you can distinguish what each alerting profile is for. When working with alerting profiles, we have three key components. First up, we have the management zone, the severity rules, and the event filters. Let's start at management zone, which is an optional field. Um, I'm just going to select this one. Will allows us to or our filtering. So right now, just to recap, we're defining the scope and conditions that need to be met for the problems to be triggered and then alerted to us. In this case, only entities that are triggering or causing these problems that belong to this specific management zone will uh, be part of the alerting profile. As we go down the severity rules, here you can find that we already provide you with 6 predefined rules for the different kind of alerts that exist. So we have availability, custom, error, resource, and slowdown. You can either create your own one or just leverage these ones, but it's going to be the same structure. So here you can just select the kind of alert that you're using. In this case, I'm going to keep it with availability. And here we have two really important fields. First one is delay. This is going to be an additional time that needs in order for the alert to be triggered. Let's say, for example, in a scenario where many hosts in your server um, become unavailable for a specific restart, and it always lasts about 1 minute, but you're aware of this, and for some reason you just don't want to have these alerts constantly um, being notified about them because this just creates a lot of noise. What you can do here is just set, for example, at 2 minutes to reduce this noise or reduce like false alerts and so on. So what this is going to do is that for availability alerts, in this case also for entities within this management zone, that are less than 2 minutes. So if the problem duration is less than 2 minutes, then it's not going to be included in the alerting profile. Whereas if it lasts longer, which in this case would mean that it is indeed an availability issue and you want to be alerted, then it will be triggered and included in the alerting profile. So you can play around with these delays based on your needs, of course. And the other field that we have here is the tags. You can either include all entities, so no further filtering, or you can go for all tags or any tags. All tags is going to do an AND operator with all the tags that you specify, and any tags is going to be like an OR operator. Let me add a couple tags here. So we're going to go for team, and I'm going to add production, for example. And then I'm going to go for application, and I'm going to go for Dynalabs. These are just two random tags that we're using in the environment. If we go for all tags, as you can see here, what is going to happen? Only problems, so the problems that will be considered for this scenario are going to be availability alerts that are over 2 minutes and only include entities that have all tags, so these two tags. So an entity must have team with the value prod and application with the value Dynalabs. If it only has one of them, then it's not going to be included. I can go for any tags where any of these key value assets will do. So for example, if I have an entity that has application Dynalabs tag, then it will be included in the alerting profile. So again, you can adjust this based on what your needs for the alerting profile are, and just be aware of this slight difference. I'm gonna go ahead and also for the error alert, I'm gonna add 10 minutes, for example, and the other ones I'm just gonna keep the same. You can see here that these are changed because these are already working for me. So resource alert after 30 minutes, I want to include all entities, and so on and so on. And the last one is going to be event filters. When you want to go even further into your configuration, you can go for a specific kind of alerts that you also want to include in the alerting profile. You can go for custom, where you are going to be defining the title filter, description, and properties. So all the parameters that need to be met for this kind of event. Or you can just go for predefine, which is what I'm going to choose now. And here you can find a long list of different event types that we have registered at Dynatrace. And I'm going to go with low storage space, for example. And what this is going to do is that our alerting profile should also meet this condition. So we want the problem to contain the event type low storage space. So problems that are related to this event type. At the very end, as you will see, you can add here up until 100 event filters and more. It can be a bit tricky to understand what we really have configured. That is why at the very end we have a summary. What do we have? What are the conditions and scope and that we have for our alerting profile? We're going to be matching problems where the management zone is MC production and any of these alerts take place. So for specific, for the error alert, we only want to include the ones that are over 10 minutes. For the availability alerts, we have this delay plus some tag configurations, and it should also contain events of this kind of type. And this is how you can see always the summary. I'm going to save the changes, really important. And you can always go back and adjust the alerting profile based on your needs. Now we're gonna be moving on to the next topic, which is the problem notifications. Again, on the documentation, we can see what these capabilities about, and here we have the different categories. We have the incident management with applications like Jira, Trello, and PagerDuty, Chat Ops, Enterprise, Custom Integration, and when you go into any of these specific pages, then you can see all the detailed information about how to set up this specific one. Let's choose, for example, email. Once again, as I was saying, you can see what the steps that you need to follow for the configuration are. You can also see the different fields that we will be seeing in the configuration, what each of the fields mean, how to leverage them, the possible values that you can give them, and many more. Let me show you how to do it. we're going to be going to the integration right here and problem notifications. Let's create a new one. As I was saying before we move on, the alerting profile must have those three conditions and they're following the AND logic, so the event must fulfill all of those conditions in order for the notification to be triggered. And what we're doing with this integration is deciding where these notifications are going to be sent out. So now that we've defined the scope, we need to define um, the integrations where we want to see these alerts that we have created. Let's go for email. So the first thing we would need to do is choose the kind of integration, email, and display name. Once again, this is just the internal name that we're going to be using, so Dynalabs. And as you can expect for an email, so whenever you're sending an email or receiving an email, you would have these fields. So the recipient, who is receiving the email, do we want to add someone on carbon copy, and more. We're also going to be seeing the subject. That's the short line that we see in the email with the key information, and then the body, where we have all of the data, and of course the alerting profile. But let's start from the beginning. Let's first start with the recipients. So I'm going to go for Dynalabs at Dynatrace.com. And let's say that for my integration, I also want to add the development team. And I also want to add the management team so that they're all aware of this notification. Because I think that they should be notified about this based on my needs. Once we have this, really straightforward, we move on to the interesting part, which is the subject and body. For the subject, here we can see that we have the state of the problem, problem ID, and impacted entity. These things that we see here are called placeholders. So if you hover over the eye icon and then click your mouse to fix the text box, you can see all the available ones that we have for every single text field. This is something you can always rely on, and it's always going to have information about the ones you can use. In this case, we have state, which you can see can have possible values are open or resolved. We have the problem ID, which is that which is the unique identifier for each problem, and more. The reason why we use these placeholders is because they're dynamic. This means that instead of writing, hey, the problem 123 was open on the email, that would mean that if we write something like that, that's static, for every alert that happens, let's say for the different hosts and so on, we will always see the same text. But in this case, we want to see, hey, the actual host 1, the host 10, the host 3 has been affected by this. So having these placeholders allow Dynatrace to fetch dynamically the information and put it right into the subject, the body, and so on. So this is going to be really useful, and it's going to make things easier and clearer, which is the goal here. So once again, I'm going to keep it this way because I believe this is quite relevant, so we can see whether the problem is open or not, which is with send you can decide if it's urgent, do you want to open the email, do you not want to, the problem ID, and what has been impacted. So just key information you usually want to have here to determine what the next step should be. You also have a toggle if you want to send email once the problem is closed or not, and then the body. I prepared a short example to show you how to leverage other placeholders. This is going right. What I wrote is the problem ID, was triggered, affecting the following entities, and then I use a placeholder that's going to fetch the list of all the entities that have been affected. The current status is, and then I use the state placeholder, and please find all the details below. If you have any questions or unsure about these placeholders or the ones you can use, once again, hover your mouse on top of the eye icon, and here you can see some of the ones that I've used. For example, the problem details. This is going to be a long test with all of the information, the impacted entities. Here we can see them. So the name of all of the entities that are impacted. So we have not only the information about the root cause or what has happened, but all the other entities that could have been affected indirectly by this problem, and so on. This is really customizable. You just want to add the information that you find relevant, the information that you want to see, and make sure you leverage these placeholders so that the information is always relevant and to the specific case. And the last step would be to choose the alerting profile. We're going to go with Dynalabs, which is the one we just created. And this is how this is going to look like. It, we have created a new email integration, which is going to be sent out to these recipients. This subject on the email, so the very first line that we're going to see, and this is going to be the body. And this is going to happen for Dynalabs. So when is the email going to be sent out for this alerting profile? What is this alerting profile? The alerting profile is matching all of those conditions we defined earlier. So we define the scope. So what are the conditions that should be matching this problem? And then where should where should we be receiving these notifications? So that's super clear. Let me just show you another example. Uh, Make sure you save it if that's what you're going for. In my case, I'm just going to switch to Jira, let's say. Once again, we're going to give it a unique name. So in this case, 9labs Jira test. And here, depending on the integration, you will always find relevant information or relevant fields to that technology. Here we're seeing that we're using the Jira endpoint URL, your username, API token. These are things that you're going to be that you can find in this third app application that you're using. So you only want to add them here, your credentials, so that the information can be linked and sent out. So once you have all of these required, we query and issue description in this case. So always some similar fields. You just need to make sure you add the configuration that's necessary for each of them. For the summary, we have problem ID. Same thing, we can see here the different placeholders. In this case, we are seeing now the problem title, which is also really interesting placeholder, which in Jira, for example, I don't want to have the problem ID. I just want to see the problem title. So I'm just going to go with problem title in this case. And for the issue description, let's write something different. In this case, we can go for something like, hey team, the problem ID has been created. Please find the details below and address this with the corresponding team ASAP and problem details text. What is that placeholder? I can just go here and find it here. It's problems include the root cause in a text formatted string. So again, write whatever information you find necessary, whatever information you want to see through these notifications. If you prefer to receive a message through Slack, then simply select the notification type here on Slack, Trello, Xmatters, whatever your use case is. You can add many of these problem notifications to receive in different integrations, and always make sure that you please choose the correct alerting profile so that you can see how this works. This is going to be it. I'm just going to discard the change. And as promised, I'm just going to show you the maintenance windows, which just quickly going back to the documentation, which we have right here. Again, we have the different kind of maintenance windows. We have planned and unplanned. Plan is something that we plan in advance, so something that we foresee is going to happen in the future, so we know we have some updates happening on a monthly basis or weekly basis for a, for a specific reason, and then we just don't want to receive alerts because we know some servers are going to go down and this is expected, or unplanned. Something has gone down immediately, and I'm going to set a maintenance window that's retroactively in the past. So let's say for the last 30 minutes until the next 2 hours, we're going to be experiencing an unusual behavior, so we're going to set a maintenance window. You can see the different calculations, the different types of maintenance windows, and here you can find the different steps, step by step, on how to configure it. Once again, moving on to the settings, we're going to go to maintenance windows, which is right here, to the correct page, and we're going to add one. Once again, give it a unique name. We're going to go for Dynalabs maintenance window demo, and here a description. These just so that you know and that you remember what was the reason behind this maintenance window. Why did you create it? So this is, for example, the maintenance window. use for the um, monthly upgrade example. Now we need to choose if it's planned or unplanned. As I was saying, unplanned will allow us to fix a time frame that took place in the past, so something that's retroactively counted or planned, which I'm gonna go for example, where we are foreseeing something and we want to set it up. You can find here three different kind of behaviors. The first one would be detect problems and alert. This is really not changing anything, so everything remains the same. So we're detecting and alerting, sending all the alerts. We can detect but don't alert. So this is a really interesting option where you still want to see all these problems and see what's going on, but you just don't want to have all that noise coming from notifications or disable anything, which is the one I'm going to choose for today. Or disabling synthetic monitors. And here's when the interesting part comes, schedule. Do we want this to be a one-time thing? Is it recurrent? In my case, I chose for the monthly one, so I'm going to go with month. This of the month where this is happening, I'm going to go for the 15th. And then we can select the time window and the dates window. This scenario starts at 3 p.m. So for example, 3, and it lasts until um, 11 during the night. This is the time zone as well. I'm going to use you prefer. And then the recurrence range. As I wrote that this is recurrence and not only happening one time, when should this maintenance window start? Because it's going to be starting on a monthly basis every 15th of the month. And when does it end? I'm going to go for today's date, so December the 4th, 2023, and I want this to last for over a year. So I'm going to go for February 2025, the 5th. And this is it. And if you want to add any additional filter, you can also go for it. What this is going to do is narrow down the scope. So in this case, I can filter for all kind of entities, for example, ActiveGate. So this is the kind of entity, hosts, ActiveGates, and more. That should be matching these maintenance windows. So for all of these monitoring and alerts, which is the one I selected right here, so disable problem detection during maintenance. For these kind of entities, we're not going to be seeing any alerting, but for the others, we are going to be seeing. Or if you want to be super specific, you can also select a type. Let's go for Amazon Aurora and provide with the ID as well. So just for this specific kind of entity and this specific one, this is the one I don't want to be included. So if you have, for example, a specific host that it's just the one you don't want to have, you can create it. But if you want to have a maintenance window for a bigger scope, then you just simply go for the entity type or whatever other option you want to specify. On the other hand, you can also go for entity tags. So I just don't want to go for entity type, but I want to go for all tags for all entities that are part from the production team. So I'm just going to add the team tag, which is for prod. So in this case, we're going to have all ActiveGates and these ones. I'm just going to remove them. Oh, sorry about that. I'm just going to remove them. And I want my maintenance window to affect entities that are affected by this. All the other option also is the management zone, which is my personal favorite one, where you can just choose the management zone, which you probably have created in the past, and you already have a scope of components that are part of this, and then you can just go, hey, for this maintenance window, all entities in this management zone are going to be excluded, or in this case, not alerted or monitored. Again, really important to save changes, and this is the final result. So we've covered how to set up the alerting profiles, so the scope for the problems, integrations, where do we want to see these alerts, and in case we want to set up a period where we don't want to have any alerts, we can leverage these maintenance windows. This was all for today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the support team or go back to these documentation pages that I show you where you can find all the relevant information. Thank you so much. See you the next time.